All right, Locker Room Philosophers fans, we are here with Dr. Josh, Henk, and of course, Mike D. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, Doc?
I'm great. Thanks for asking, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So we're here at your Transcendence Family Wellness Center here in Sterling Heights, Michigan, about 18 and Van Dyke. So you just gave me a little tour. I've never been here before. This is a very cool spot. Tell us what you got going.
Thank you. Well, as you noticed when I gave you a little bit of a walkthrough, we do a little bit of everything. Kind of flusters me when people say, wow, you're the one-stop shop, because everybody kind of knows that sometimes you go to a one-stop shop, you don't get the best quality, right? But in knowing that, we wanted to create a mastermind of holistic healers that we're really good at what they did, and we could come together based off of science and principle that the body heals itself, and really provide from our own different fields of expertise a high level of healthcare for people that they've never experienced before. And yeah, man, now we just kind of, based off of certain scientific principles that we do with testing, we're able to build customized programs to help people from cancer, sickness, disease, irritable bowel, diabetes types of syndromes, insulin resistance, infertility, to individuals who just, I don't want to call them growth seekers, but people who just want to take their bodies to the next level. The individuals that just want to be average, all the time, so to speak, or not want to grow or seek or become more than who they are today. Those individuals don't really work well with our office, because they just want to be complacent all the time.
So you're the one to blame for Mike being extremely difficult to choke out.
Yeah, maybe that, or we giving him this false sense of confidence that if you guys choke him out, we'll put him back together.
That's true.
People use this as like an edit undo button. Like, Doc, you mean to say I could go to the gym and just mess myself up, or go to jiu-jitsu like you guys do, and you could just put me back together? I'm like, we joke, like, yeah, you can, but it doesn't always work that way, right? Because there's an impact on our bodies, of course, the mind, but I know you guys have a strong mind, but it's the impact that on our bodies is sometimes just irreversible, So there's not this edit undo button in healthcare, and a lot of people think that there is. And we know if there is an edit undo button, it comes from the creator of the program itself. And so we have to seek to that power that made our body, and because we know that's the only power that can heal our body. So instead of looking outside of our bodies, or even looking into the wellness center or into the knowledge of somebody else, some other doctor or professional or guru, we need to look within ourselves and find out what's really interfering with our connection with that infinite potential, right? Because we have the infinite potential to be almost anything, and we just kind of separate ourselves. There's a distance between us and that potential, and we should do things to get closer to that potential. And that's why I love what you guys are doing here, is because you're taking people that are in the community and you're exposing the potential that, as we would say, the average person may experience, but we find out that those people are just not so average, that everybody's incredible in their own way. And to be able to see that with the people that I work with, and everybody have breakthroughs in their own unique way, it's just the most powerful thing ever. And I know you guys have seen that with the folks that you've kind of interviewed so far, is how powerful it is when people can come together.
Mm-hmm. And when I was walking in, I saw a quote above the door. It said, it was something along the lines of, basically, get out of the way of your body. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, nature needs no help, just no interference, right? So it's this idea that the body doesn't need help in order to heal. We just need to get the interference that's in the way out of the way, right? And so there's a difference between helping and guiding. This is, I always say, we're your guide, but we're not your helper. And like my children who are here today, they want your support. They want you to guide them. They want you, Daddy, come here. And I'm like, what do you need? And they say, well, I need your help. I try to teach them the difference of helping and guiding, because when I try to help them, I try to put my hands on what they're doing, they smack me away. Leave me alone. I don't want you to do that. And I'm like, then what do you want from me, kid? You want help? I was like, oh, you really want guidance. You want me to just watch me and support me. And I realized that's what our Father is doing for us, right? Our Creator. He's not helping us. That's not really what we want, is help. We want the support and we want the guidance. And that's, as doctors, that's all that we could provide for people, is that help, support, and the guidance and cultivation, create a vessel for people to flow within and through, and make sure there's nothing interfering with it. The nature of the body, if it's not interfered upon, it doesn't need help, right? It'll just grow on its own as long as we give it everything that it needs, right? So It stems from this idea that the power that made the body heals the body as long as there's nothing getting in the way, right? It's people kind of look to me as if I'm some kind of deity or somebody that can heal them, as if I or their doctors have this secret formula to heal, and we don't. You do, right? We as doctors should be looking towards what's getting in the way of that healing, and it's just a backwards way of thinking sometimes, because most doctors are looking, this will heal your body, this will heal this vitamin will do this treatment, this therapy, this grounding will do this or that. And then people start to have faith in that thing, right? They start to have more faith in that medicine and its ability to heal them than they have in their own power that created them, right? So I always say we have more faith in a spoonful of medicine than the own power that created us. And we need to knock that off. We need to know we have that infinite wealth, that spirit that's inside of us. We just need to accept that we keep getting in the way, physically, emotionally, chemically, spiritually, right? We got to get out of the way.
I mean, that's pretty empowering, because a lot of people, they kind of resort to the traditional medicine of, all right, I need to go to my doctor and they'll just give me a bunch of pills and that'll solve it. I can't solve it myself. And how do you address people that are so ingrained in the typical like modern health system?
Well, you look at it like a dog who's caged up, right? If this dog was free to roam and be under the proper circumstances, he wouldn't be the same way, or an inmate who's locked up in a cage. So these individuals are locked up in a certain mind step, in a programming, right? And so I never take offense to individuals who are so ingrained, like you said, in their medical ways, because I just understand that they're just programmed. They're locked in a cage. What I get them to see is the cage itself. I get them to see that medicine is a copywritten structure that is designed to maintain, monitor, and manage their situation, not cure. And these were laws that were strategically put in place, right? I don't always get on this kind of banter with individuals that are that way. But we know deep inside that the individual wants to be better. They also know, I asked them the question, well, would you, if there was a version of yourself that could exist just as you are without medications, would you rather be that person? And absolutely, every time they're like, yes, I recognize that I would like to be in existence without these medications. I say, great, that's what I help people to do, right? I help you to exist without medications. Deep down, that's what they do want, but they have no other options, right? And I think that's the problem, and that's what this is for. It's just about show people, no, these places do exist. They've actually existed for a lot of time, and they're actually everywhere. You know, we're not the only place that is doing these groundbreaking things here. There's places all around if you're just seeking. But most people aren't seeking. They're seeking health outside of them instead of looking inward and saying, wow, my body has full potential. What's getting in the way of that? Because then they would be writing down in a journal, wow, I'm the one getting in the way of that. Like, I limit my own potential. And then they look at, well, my food, like, is it organic? Is it healthy? Is it too much? Is it too little? Now, when you come with the mindset that you have everything you need, just got a bunch of stuff getting in the way, now you're looking at what's getting in the way of your full potential instead of looking for something to replace your potential, right? Or enhance your potential. I need an energy drink. What does that mean? Where do you think the energy is coming from? Your adrenal glands. You know, you're robbing from the future to get this, instant boost of energy, like it's in a glass or a bottle, and it's not. So we're really based off of community results and philosophy. Science is the last element that brings it all together into some sort of art form, right? The philosophy, science, and art. And I think that's what's important for people is we have to get them out of that cage, like you say, is to really give them a new philosophy, right? Teach them that the body heals itself, that things outside of them can never heal, right? And once they flip this philosophy, they start to realize, oh my gosh, I created the cage and nobody's created the cage for me, right? Because we have this idea that we want to blame everybody else. I get we could blame the powers that be, but really, we're the one creating the cage around us all. We're all living in the same place. Why are you looking at someone else like they got freedom and you're here trapped? You're creating the cage. Once we accept that is the truth, we have accepted this cage upon ourselves, we can release ourselves from it too, right? So that's really what it comes down to. These people that are ingrained in their ways is just giving them a new philosophy to run the algorithm through and actually witness some of those miracles. They test it. They do fasting for 2 days. eat maybe an anti-inflammatory diet, lose 15 pounds, feel better, their irritable bowel goes away, and they're like, okay, I'm a believer now. I'm like, okay, and what? Well, in that the fact that your body heals itself, right? And that's what I always connect people to, because I could say, give people these results that they lose 15 pounds and say, oh, hail the detox. Oh, Dr. Josh's special detox formula, like Space Jam, right? Like Michael Jordan's got his special, secret, and it's just water, right? This is what I try to teach people is when you heal with these principles, don't give me credit. Don't give that vitamin credit. Don't give that fast a credit. Give the power that is inside of you the credit, because it is responding to what you're doing. Of course, you have to make some changes. You have to get to the gym. You have to get on the mat. You have to do those things, right? You have to put the food in your mouth. But how easy is that? You don't have to digest your food and give it to the trillions of cells that are asking for it. You don't have to deal with all that. Imagine if you did, right? That would be incredibly, difficult. And most people can't text and drive. Could you imagine having to regulate what your liver cells want to do today and what they need? At the same time, your kidney cells, your skin cells, your eye cells, on top of your hopes and dreams and wishes. And if you have kids, I feel like the power that made us created an autonomy to our system, right? So that it can just run on the background and we could just be free to live. And this is so many people are just surviving and they're not living. They're just surviving and not living in happiness and love.
For sure. And you use the term groundbreaking. Do you think that this is groundbreaking, or do you think it's getting back to basics and getting back to how we
I love that you
were?
say that, because it's always a rediscovery, right? We always say that all the knowledge in the universe that exists in a book has always existed, always will. So everything that we say is an imposter, right? So I always tell people we never found anything new, right? When we break ground on things, that means we're going back to ancient times. We're starting to discover, when I use that term, this groundbreaking, it's like this buried treasure that was always there, but it wasn't there until it was found. It was, let's say, measured. It was researched, and it was brought to the public in a place that, hey, no, the treasure really exists. So this is where we did the digging. We've done the groundbreaking. We've dug, and we've found these principles have always been there. We don't want people to say, this is groundbreaking. We got this methodology that we found. The groundbreaking that we found is we found this ancient knowledge, these principles that have always been there. And that's what's groundbreaking, is this idea that there's always been there. That's it. That's what's so groundbreaking, is that it's always been there. It's not something that's new. And when you share that with people, there's a sense of peace, because there are some people that's always looking for the new iPhone. There's always some sort of innovation, something better out there. But so much peace comes about you once you realize that what you were searching for was here 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. And that's why the things that I like to teach people, we had access to thousands of years ago. Infrared sauna, right? High altitude training, hyperbaric chamber, red light therapy, right? Sunset, right? There's salt room, salt caves, right? Grounding therapy, grounding mat. We had access to these natural things, but we've removed ourselves from all of the elements. And so there are ways that you can reintroduce them artificially, sure, like in a wellness center. But the way to do it is to get out into the wilderness, right? Get in with the creation, because that's where you're going to get the revelations, and that's where we've really taken this vision of the wellness center that you both have been a part of today. And we've really brought it into, we call this the beta version of what we're doing. It's groundbreaking, but it's like, what are you going to do with that? You're going to put it in a museum? You're going to sell it on the black market? What are you going to do with this treasure that you've broke ground and found underneath it all? And so we're going to divvy it up and share it with the world, right? We're going to polish up the best pieces, and we're going to invite people to it, and we're going to show them how to hunt for the treasure on their own, right? Hunt for that health on your own. And to do that is by demonstrating and holding an environment. So that's where the retreat platforms comes into place, So we love to take people, and we say to ourselves, as with any business, you take your best product, your service, and any business owner will say, well, that's all you should offer, right? It's true. You only got 24 hours in the day. If you offer this, and it's your best, you should only offer that. But if you're only offering one thing, then you don't get to take care of everybody else. But then you're also trying to be a people pleaser, right? Trying to serve everybody when you know your highest value system and that you would best be served here, right? Where I'm going with this is this idea that we need to be serving our public with the best that we can possibly offer. And if I'm going to offer programs that I do to the best of my ability, I need to take that person out of their cycle of stress, because the biggest problems we've seen in people is their habits, their lifestyles, their routines, right? If you could take someone to a retreat center in Costa Rica, or you could take them for just a week and get them to see different principles, a different way of life, smell some different air, see some different people, taste some different food, all of a sudden your principles are automatically starting to change. When you come back home, you're like, wait a minute, we don't need to eat that way. We can eat fruit every morning. And then you start eating the fruit and you're like, how come it doesn't taste like Costa Rica? And then you start researching, right? And then you start finding out they're poisoning our food system. And then you become this philanthropist for healthy food in your community. And you were not that type of person before you went on the retreat, right? You have to see the rest of creation so that we can understand our own creation, right? And see how other people are actually healing in other countries, are healthy in other countries. But the law here in America, there's a law against curing cancer naturally. You have to use drugs and surgery in order to legally cure yourself of cancer or disease. So there was these cases of children before CBD was legal. There's a Vermont case where they went to West Virginia or Vermont, one of the V states. It doesn't really matter. This was happening all over the country where people were going to Colorado using CBD and curing their cancer. Okay, all their cells, everything, there's tumors gone and everything. But what was happening in this specific case with this child is the mother decided to just move to Colorado because it wasn't legal in her state. So we're going to move to Colorado. It cured my kid. There's no more tumors, right? There's a tumor in the lungs. So the tumor shrunk, disappeared completely. It's all legal in Colorado, did it through a doctor and everything. They went back home and they confirmed that it was all cleared, but the doctor said they didn't do it medically, so they can't take it off of his record, so to speak. We can't expunge cancer from his record. She says, I don't care. My son it doesn't have cancer, so it's fine. I don't care if you take it off his record or not. We'll do whatever you want. And so they actually came after her for medical neglect because she didn't complete the last 2 treatments of chemotherapy. This kid did 7 out of 9 chemotherapy treatments. It didn't work. Did CBD and it worked. The courts mandated that she had to finish the last 2 or she's going to be put in jail or take the kids. So she's like, fine, whatever. He's cured. He did 7. What's 2 more? He did the last 2, died of brain cancer. It's one of the most common side effects of chemotherapy. I always get the chills when I share this story because there's so many elements of political overstepping, healthcare inequality that shouldn't have happened. All because of law getting in the way of something that should not be governed by law and cannot be governed by law, the power that made us. Oh my gosh, right? I'm all for law and order, don't get me wrong. But there's certain things that just should not be meddled with, or the law should not be meddled with. But I get keeping people safe and preventing, some people selling snake oil and all these failed treatments that exist out there. But man, you go to Costa Rica, you go to Tijuana, Mexico, which is just 25 minutes over the border by San Bernardino, right? You go to Tijuana, Mexico, and there's 20 different cancer healing institutes there. Just right across the border. But you have to be out of the U.S. territory to naturally cure cancer and say that you can do that. I cannot say that we can cure cancer, even though everything here in the Wellness Center has cured and helped a lot of people cure their own cancer, right? What I do doesn't cure the cancer regardless. So I don't care about being able to tell people that we can cure cancer because it's such an egotistical thing. I'd rather promote this idea of wellness, right? If we focus on the light, we have no time for the darkness. And that's my biggest mantra that I teach people is we need to forget about the darkness. If you're going to do chemotherapy, if you're going to do surgery, if you're going to take medication, still go ahead and do that. That's what you want to do, right? The darkness is going to exist inside of us regardless. However, the amount of darkness and the peace that we have in the darkness is predicated on how much light is in the body, right? Darkness is sickness, but darkness doesn't exist. Darkness is a lack of light. Does sickness really exist, or is it just a lack of health? So people who don't focus on health, they focus on their sickness, they're fighting cancer. Why are we focusing on fighting cancer? Why are we not focused on promoting health? If we just flip that principle, right? And instead of fighting the disease, focusing on the darkness, which is what a lot of medicine has trained us to do, focus on your disease, focus on your condition, focus on the darkness, it doesn't even exist. And that's the craziest thing ever. They created a law that made people believe in darkness, which doesn't exist. It's scary. And fear, right? So then there's fear involved into it. Oh my gosh, they have the recipe for world dominance, right?
That's what we saw during COVID, right? It was a prime example of focusing on the sickness, but not talking about the wellness and the healing of the body, what you can do to get yourself healthy, help your immune system.
Right.
And then it's just from there, it's the fear. that they put. And then the fear was, I believe at one time, it was like the second leading cause of like comorbidity. It was like fear and anxiety related.
Oh, the stress,
yeah.
right?
So it's
Surgeon General said that stress is more damaging than cigarettes.
Yeah.
It's worse than cigarettes. Stress will kill you before cigarettes.
Yep.
We know stress is also good for us too, right? So it's like, whoa,
just healthy stress.
What a stress, right? Sure. Like it's such a loaded statement there. But well, you guys all heard probably seen that the plan for world domination is centered around health.
Mm-hmm.
And it's centered around health because of the 7 deadly fears. 3 of the 7 deadly fears are centered around health, which is the fear of death, the fear of old age, and the fear of illness. You also have another deadly fear, which is outlined in the curriculum, the book that we're just about to complete, The Forged in Fire Mentality, which is the fear of loss of a loved one, right? So we fear losing our loved ones, so people were going to take the jab. Just because I'm afraid of losing my grandmother, or I can't see my newborn child, so I'll take the jab because of fear. All of this is all based off of fear, right? So they knew people fear losing their loved one. That's actually the one that takes people's lives. People die of that fear due to suicide more than any other fear, is the fear of loss of a loved one. When you're in constant state of worry that the people that you love are being attacked or unhealthy or low vibrating, we just want to kill ourselves because we don't even want to be in that existence, right? But we know that these fears, if we overcome them, they lead us to the number 1 law of success, which if you read Napoleon Hill's book, The Law of Success, he talks about Henry Ford, who created Mastermind, which was one of the reasons why he was the most powerful man. But his most powerful ability was number 1 law of success is confidence. But confidence can only happen in somebody once they master the fear. So you have to put yourselves in situations to where you feel unhealthy. You have to experience unhealthy. You have to get healthy and gain confidence. But gain confidence in what? In your medication that you took? That's what they want to do. They know that. They know that you fear illness. They know that if you get a Tylenol, they know you're probably already going to heal, but that they made money off of you. They don't even care about that. They care about the confidence that you're given medicine. You were probably already going to heal from that fever. You just maybe feel better, and you gave the Tylenol all the confidence in your healing. They were misplacing our value system and our confidence. When you can replace people's value system and confidence, they start making better decisions, right? But it's by conquering fears, a fear of old age, fear of illness, fear of death, right? A lot of those things are just inevitable. You're going to die. You're going to get sick before you die, so you're going to be ill, and you're going to get old, right? So these are 3 things, these major fears. You're always going to lose a loved one, right? You have fear of criticism, which is another one of the deadly fears, right? And so there's these deadly fears that we talk about in the book that Napoleon Hill outlined, and there's a book called The 7 Deadly Fears, right? I'll read that book because it's powerful. Every one of us, men and women, we are afflicted by those fears, and they're actually transgressing into our health and ourselves, but they're using this fear to dominate the world because they know if people are worried about dying or losing their loved ones or getting old or getting unhealthy, that they can put something in front of them to be their savior, right? And that this will save you, right? And they'll go for it because they're scared. And they have a misplaced guided system, They believe in a creator, but they don't have enough faith in their creator to heal their bodies. It's just such a hard thing for me to see, because so many people believe in creation, but the actions that they're taking on a daily basis are not demonstrating that they're a believer. And belief implies doubt. So it makes sense why a lot of people don't believe, because really deep down people have faith, and faith is knowing. There's a difference between faith and knowing and hope and belief, right? The world peddles you hope. That's what a medication. I hope. I've really worked on, I recommend that people, even myself, I find myself saying, I hope you're doing good, right? Instead, I've been saying, I trust, right? I trust that you're doing well instead of, I hope that you're doing well. It's an affirmation that they are doing well, right? I trust that you're doing well. Like, I know you're doing well. And maybe they're not, they can be honest and tell you that they're not. But this idea of hope keeps people on the hook. They keep them down the line, right? And it implies doubt. So this is where when I tell people, you don't need to hope to get healthy. You need to know that you're already healthy 100%, right? You need to know that, and you need to also know what's getting in the way of that health. And that's where science comes in. And that's, what's also, groundbreaking about our office is not all the things that we can do to help you to remove the interference in healing. It's how do we know what's interfering in the first place? A lot of offices, they'll just get right to cracking your back. give you a vitamin, give you a medication, maybe give you a detox or give you some sort of treatment. And they didn't do any exams or testing or anything like that to determine which of those things you actually needed. And really, they're playing trial and error. They're going to say, did this work? No, it didn't work. Okay, you don't have that condition. So the way that they find the problems in your body is they'll try things. And if it didn't work, then you don't have that disease. Instead of saying, hey, I measure twice, cut once, right? I know exactly what's going on. And I have an ancient healing remedy to go ahead and reverse that. And we're going to use this modern science. I always say this wellness center is a blend between modern science and ancient healing. We're going to use modern science to see what is interfering with the body healing itself, but we're going to look to ancient principles that have always been here to get the interference out of the way and allow the body to heal itself. The most ancient healing thing out there is you, right? Your mind. You have the healing potential within you. Just got to let it go. Let it fly, share it like we're doing right now,
So what formed this worldview that you have? Like what in your past, when did you start to believe in all this?
Well, it goes back to this idea that my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. Okay. My father is Islamic. My mom is Christian. I went to church on Sunday and the mosque on Friday, right? I played basketball with my buddies at the mosque on Friday afterwards. And I also play basketball on Wednesdays with my church buddies, right? I grew up feeling like I was a wolf in sheepskin. I was a kid. I mean, I'm a little bit older now, but I thought I was a big guy. I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I thought I was a big guy. But at the same time, I thought I was a wolf in sheepskin. I was like, here I am praising Jesus. And here I am also claiming that, Allah is the creator too. And I was very confused as a child. And so as I started to grow up, I always had this seeking. I was always seeking God in a way, right? Which was actually like a blessing because it was almost like there's a no name, right? So one of my books that I'm working on right now is this idea of what it is, right? And as I started to study different principles and perspectives like the Bhagavad Gita, I went to Catholic church every Friday with my roommate, right? And I just fly on the wall. I started looking into, Taoism, right? Which is the way, ancient, and one of the most oldest religions known to man is the Tao, right? I started studying traditional Chinese medicine. All of a sudden, I started getting to all these different philosophies, and I was led to this center point. That's all I can call it, the power, right? I led to it. And so my book is this idea of what is it, right? And it's this studying of everybody else's perspectives, right? And this is similar to what this podcast is all about. It's about taking in many different perspectives and forming one unified perspective and idea, and that could be very unique for everybody else. A lot of this came though from a time because I grew up with knowing this light or this concept of creation. I just didn't really. It wasn't like connected to me. Still, even through the church and the mosque, it still wasn't connected. God was like, "Look, I'm giving you two different perspectives, and it's still not working." Damn. I had to get to a really dark place in my life. That's what had to happen. I had to get to a place where I was dark financially, I was dark mentally, I was in college. I was dark, I had all the knowledge that I needed, but I wanted to quit what I was doing. I wanted to quit chiropractic school, right? And I was broke in my relationships with my parents, my friends. I was depressed. I was ready to just quit chiropractic school, right? And then I met a doctor who shared with me that there's this intelligence inside of the body that gave it life, and it's working through the nervous system. And I was like, damn, so he's like, yeah, it's just an intelligence. He said, well, you could call it God, you can call it the Holy Spirit, you can call it Allah if you want. And so when I started adopting this principle, like my religion was almost like chiropractic for a while, right? Because it actually took what I was learning my whole life and it made it make sense, right? I was cutting this guy's head open, right? We took a bone saw. We have to open up the human body in chiropractic school. I had to take, most medical schools don't get to do that, but I had 4 people in my group. One of them was a guy, all of them were girls, the rest of them were girls, right? One of the guys, he ended up dropping out. So I was just stuck in a group of 4 girls opening up a dead body and they didn't want to do anything gross, right? So here I am, I got this guy's, if you could imagine, he's sitting upright and I take his head and I take off the top of his skull and I pop it off. It looks like a cereal bowl. I remember looking at it like, oh, I could have Cocoa Puffs in that in the morning. Dude, the things you think about once you start doing stuff, right? He's like, dude, you're psycho. I'm like, no, you kind of got to be a little psychotic after, 80 hours in the anatomy lab looking at the inside of the creation. You're just numb, right? I clip his eyes, the nerves go into his eyes. They're literally like wires going straight back to the eyes, right? Take his brain out. We chop it up into 4, explore his brain, right? This dude was not living life thinking like, hey, someone's going to have his hands in his brain, right? I'm holding the inside of his skull with my hand, and I have a bone saw, and I'm cutting him down his center line, right through between his eyes, right between his nose. He's got these dentures. I'm like, what the heck is this? Because it was really getting really hard to saw through his skull. His dentures. So I was sawing through his dentures. I didn't take his dentures out first. Sawed right through the dentures, and all the way down. We sawed down through his neck, all the way down to his upper chest, and we just split the head like Predator. If you can imagine that, right? How many people listening right now have actually done that, right? And I'm sure you guys have been through things that 99.9% of people have not seen before, and that thing has changed you. Right? That has altered you. It has affected every aspect of your life. Let me tell you, when you do what I just described to you, do that, you open up the inside of what the Creator made, the creation, what they were saying in the church on Sunday, in the mosque on Friday, and all these freaking professors who know everything about the body. But if you ask one, well, who made the body? I don't know. I can't make that answer. How do you know everything about the body, but you don't know who made the damn thing? You can't give me that answer, right? So this is where I was stuck. We have all the science, and they can't even tell me who made the body. We go to church, and they can't tell me the science of why we should fast. Oh, just fast for 30 days. That's just what we do because the prophet did that. Well, that's not good enough, right? And then you look at the science behind fasting. It actually makes you healthier, releases growth hormone. And then you read the scripture, and then you're like, oh, the scripture actually says that. But it's like in code. The Bible is in code. The Quran is in code, but Bhagavad Gita, it's all coded. It actually is telling you how to invest your money. But somebody whose third eye is not open, who's not a seeker, they're going to read it for the words. That's why the Bible has survived as long as it has, because those that want to seek to destroy it, they just see it as a book. And they know that those who could really use it, their third eye has to be open. And if they can just close the third eye of people, that they can read the Bible and they'll never see what the Bible is really trying to say. There's more than just the words on the page. And that awakened me, right? It's just really to tell you, this long story is opening up the human body and seeing what Creator created and seeing it from the inside and in search of where's Bob? And his name is Bob, right? Where's Bob at? I cut him open. I couldn't find Bob. Where's Bob? Like it's Men in Black. Like there's like a little guy inside, right? Where's Bob at? Where's Bob? And I'm sitting here, open up the body. I'm like, I know everything about biology and cells. And I'm like, where's Bob? Bob was walking around one day, had kids in him. Where's Bob? Where's he at now? Where the fuck is Bob? Right? And I'm like, oh, Bob's in heaven. Or he's maybe reincarnated, right? I'm like, I'm fine with both of those, right? So, yeah, it allowed me to be detached from. I don't care what happens on the outside of this life. All I care about is how I live this life. Right? Because this is like the test of what happens. Do you become an eagle or do you become a pigeon? Do you become a bobcat or a house cat? A lion or a caged animal, right? What determines your reincarnation, whether it's another human form born into higher circumstances and privilege, or someone who's born in less, healthier circumstances and privilege and having to work themselves back up the righteous ladder. I don't know what happens after death, but I do know that using this life and this body as a testament of our understanding and respect for our Creator is what we're here for, right? And by keeping your spine in alignment and going to the chiropractor, you're telling your Creator, I respect your creation. I respect what you've created. I understand what you created. It makes sense I need to be in alignment. More powerful than a prayer is a chiropractic adjustment. An adjustment is a prayer. It's an understanding and a commitment to your Creator that, hey, I respect alignment. Drinking a glass of water is a respect for your creation, right? Drinking a Red Bull is a disrespect to your creation. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just judging here. Maybe it's all good, right? Going to church on Sunday and McDonald's right afterwards is a disrespect to your creation. People don't see it that way, right? But when you put it in a context, when we have these conversations, people say, oh, wait, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. Like, yeah, we can't praise God heals the body and then put crap in it that interferes with it, right? I had a patient of mine. She was a patient for about 3 years, found out she had cancer, right? She's going through chemotherapy and radiation. She's doing the anti-inflammatory diet with us and detoxing. She's doing all the holistic. She's doing all the medical things. This is what I usually recommend with, those types of cases. And she says to me, Dr. Josh, I'm at peace. I'm like, how are you? She's like, I'm at peace. Her name is Cheryl. She's like, I'm at peace because Jesus is going to be with me through the whole treatment. And I said, oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. But guess what? She goes, what? I said, Jesus was also with you while you were getting cancer. And she looked at me and she's like, you're right. She's like, thank you for reminding me of that. She's like, I was the one that was further away from the Lord. I was the one, my thoughts, my behaviors. She said, I eat now differently. So she's in a state of faith. She's like, when the surgeon works and does his work, right? That cancer is gone, but the habits that created that cancer are no longer there in my life. So she was at complete peace. That's why she's still alive, right? That's why the cancer hasn't come back, because she's not the person that she was when she got cancer. And she recognized that God was always there in the dark and in the light. We're the ones that are further. And once that hit me, it's just like, oh, great. Everything they told me in the mosque makes sense. We need to get closer. And through our rituals and through our prayers and intentions, right? Same thing in the church, the Bhagavad Gita, right? Yoga, whatever it is. They're all trying to teach you to give time and show in many different ways respect for creation, you know? It's just the hard part of all of it. Like everything, there's always like a silver lining to everything, right? And so there's always these religions that say, well, that religion's the antichrist of that religion and this and that. And, they start fighting, saying, this is the only way, right? And I'm a demonstration that in me growing up, there were two perspectives I was led down, right? And I would tell you, what is the way? I would say, at least go to church on Sunday and the mosque on Friday. That's how I figured it all out, right? And people like my perspective, that's how I figured it out, whatever it is. If you're a Native American, it's the Great One, right? The Great One. I love that. It's one of my favorite names for our Creator, the Great One. Yeah, it's just like the Great One. And when you give it some other name, it becomes less than that. We start to define it by what it is, by what we're told that it is. That's why I never really like to even look at God as any human form at all, or ever even existing in a human form, because I don't want to limit it for what it is, right? And allow it to just be all natural, all pure what it is, and have respect for the feet of Jesus Christ that walked this earth, and on the feet of Muhammad that walked this earth, and Noah and Moses and Abraham and everybody else before, right? Respect our ancestors, because in the beginning, we go all the way back to Adam, right? And Adam, when you say the term Adam, this is what we talk about in the Forged in Fire Mentality book, is we come from iron. Us men, we're made of iron. Iron is made of carbon. Carbon is made of 6 protons, neutrons, and electrons, right? When you say we come from Adam, and science says the earliest form of our creation is an atom, vibrationally speaking, you're saying the same thing. When you say ADAM, atom, or you say atom, if you just roll it, you say the same thing. So science is accepting that we came from Adam. So does creation. We know that we all came from Adam, right? And that's where us men need to start to embrace, especially the leadership role. Women have their own roles too, but specifically with our mentality that we try to provide for our men in our culture that we've developed, because we have a lot of men, we have a lot of women, we have children in our wellness center, but part of how we help them to heal is to help them to get past and reorganize the past, the present, and the future. Get past the past, get past the present, move into the future, and reorganize their mental life. Is really get into the psychological levels with people. And for men especially, we need men to see that they're just a big hunk of iron. And it doesn't matter if you came from, a trust fund baby where you got $1 million in the bank when you're born, or if you had to start from this rust to riches kind of mentality. Iron is still iron, and you can be melted down and turned into a deadly weapon. You can be melted down and turned into a very weak weapon. And so I always look at life as a forging process, and all of us humans are some sort of materials, and life is trying to forge us into some sort of weapon for a predetermined purpose. I don't believe in destiny. I believe maybe there's a little bit of destiny involved, but I feel most of what's happening right now, especially this conversation, was predetermined. Before I came here, I knew we were going to do this. I wanted to do this. I just forgot. Just as you guys both said in this life before you were here, you said you wanted to be a part of this. You just forgot. And this is the whole premise of the philosophy in the book that we try to teach the men, is that before you came to earth in this divine consciousness state, you were watching the perils that were going on. And you said to yourself, well, if I were that person, I would do this. If I were this person, I would do that. And then you said to the Lord or the Creator, you said, put me in, coach. And the coach said, I'm going to put you on earth, but you're going to forget everything that I taught you in practice. And you're like, I'm never going to forget it. Put me in, coach. I'm going to get that girl. I'm going to go on that adventure. And I'm going to fight that great fight. I'm going to fight the medical paradigm. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, right? And then you get put on earth and you forgot it all. And then you do things, you meet people, and you're like, man, it's like I know this guy. Yeah, he was your brother in the divine consciousness state. You both decided to have the same fight. You guys are fighting the same fight. Come together. So what I try to teach the men, but also women, is that we made the decisions that we're doing now. Life is not about finding your purpose, right? It's like this groundbreaking idea. It's about remembering it. It was always there. It was like buried treasure. It was always there. So I like to teach people how to remember their purposes and categorize their purposes into 3 great purposes for adventure. As John Eldridge did in his book, Wild at Heart, he talks about 3 great purposes of the heart's desires, which is the desire for wilderness, adventure, desire to fight, right? And desire to save a beauty, right? And we as men, we need to be strong weapons and have the armor that we need to go to battle for these 3 things, because the world is trying to take the adventure away from us men, trying to take the beauty out of life, and is trying to subdue the fight, this, hey, I just want to save the world thing, but you don't have enough money and I got bills next week and I got to go to work and da-da-da-da-da, right? And that's the whole world is trying to take those things away from us. And we decided before we came here to do those 3 things. And so we have to be a part of podcasts such as this. We have to be a part of groups. And that's why I offer everybody to be a part of our Wealth Mentality retreats that we have coming up next year, because it's going to help you to remember what purposes you chose before you came here. And once you remember what purposes you chose, now you ain't got to waste any more time finding your purpose. You can just be like, oh, I remember. I was supposed to do this, this, and this. Cool. Who wants to help me? And that's where the brotherhood comes in place. So this mastermind is a group of men specifically that we just kind of come together. We'll come together monthly on a virtual conversation, and then we'll meet together on local events. We'll also do destination retreats in Costa Rica, for example, coming up next year in April and July. We're also going to Hocking Hills to do like a mini origin story retreat where we're going to help men to rediscover their origin story and use it to advance the power of their kingdom. I feel like if a man, like I kind of shared with you, my origin story, my how I started church on Sunday, mosque on Friday, parents got divorced when I'm 3, and here I am now, who I am, right? That's my origin story, right? And to be able to share that with everybody is very important, because that's how you start to build relationships with people. And that's the first step of the forging process that everybody needs to know, is you need to know where you come from in order to know where you're going. Before we start taking this piece of iron that you are and turning it into a blade, we first have to know, well, where did this metal come from? Well, it came from Africa. Okay, it came from Australia. It came from the moon. Okay, great. Now I know what type of metals I'm working with. Once you know what type of alloys, okay, is there any other metals mixed in with this metal? Yeah, da-da-da-da. Okay, cool. Once I know the origin of this metal, I can put it in the fire, right? Which is the second step, right? Or the third step, actually. You can have a battle plan. You can go to the grind. You can go to the sharpening, and then you can get tested at the end. So there's this process, these 7 steps that we'll probably save for a future conversation. But to just bring things full circle, to see where the power is at, is the power is in masterminding. It's bringing people together, because ultimately there's this common theme of creation here in this conversation. However, it got on this tangent. But a mastermind is just that. If you take all living things in the world, all the plants, all the animals, all the living things with consciousness, and you combined it into like one big snowball, that for me is what it is. That for me is my understanding of God, of creation, of Allah, of Jesus Christ, of Jehovah, of the King of Kings, right? And that for me is what we need to, teach through what we're offering here, and what I want to teach and what I want to express more than anything, whether it's the mastermind group of men or the mastermind of holistic healers that I've developed, or the mastermind of friends that we have around me, right? Make no mistake that you have to be surrounded by living things that also vibrate at the same frequency and with the same vision as you. And together you will create a mastermind that can heal you, right? Through the intelligence that's already there. And it can also bring you great riches. It can bring you great opportunities and all the love in the world, all the money in the world, all the opportunities in the world, right? We need to leverage this idea of a mastermind, as Napoleon Hill talked about. Henry Ford, the number one quality that led to his success was his ability to create a mastermind. He could bring people together and not have to know what they know, but he could bring people together and get shit done, right? That's the assembly line. Forget about being credited with the car. He didn't invent the car. He invented the assembly line. He took the best of the best engineers in the different parts of the vehicle. He put them on a line, and he made a really good car with it for a very good price, right? And that's essentially what we do here at the Wellness Center. For a very, very affordable price, you could get all the stuff that I mentioned and more. Nobody can even top it. There's no place in Michigan that offers concierge, we don't call it unlimited chiropractic care, for $150 a month. There's no other place. There's no other place you can walk into as often as you like and not be billed or charged every time that you go there. So this is our motto here. It's always about come as you are, and let's release the spiritual potential that's inside of you, and get it to heal the body, get it to create relationships in your life, get it to help you to make more money, right? Get you to just be closer to your source and creation, which is ultimately what I think every human being wants. And that's the big principle and culture shift, is everybody wants to be closer to their source. We may not all believe in the same or name the same source, but I've found that we all believe in the same source. Actually, we just give it different names and perspectives, and that's okay, right? If we can all want to get closer and to be more like our source, I feel like we're all going to be led on the path that we need to actually personally go on, whether it is to come out and engage with some of the listeners and some of the podcasts and some of the instructors that we'll have on here, or if it's to go out and forge your own path or to become one of your own, just know that, again, this mastermind is always here to help you. If you just ask and you just seek, and the universe is just such a powerful thing that we've forgotten how to leverage and use.
Just because people are going to be curious, what are the different services that your facility here, Transcendence Family Wellness Center, offers? Man.
So like we said before, the services are first and foremost diagnostic, not to see is to guess. So before we want to talk about treatments, what are we going to do to heal or remove the interference? We always talk about the services we offer first are testing. We're really big on testing. So we'll do physical exams. We have x-ray capabilities. We can send you out for MRIs, CTs, and ultrasounds. We do thermography, which is very rare. Most places do not offer infrared thermal imaging for, let's say, breast cancer screenings, thyroid screenings, or stroke screenings as well. We also do genetic testing, stool samples, saliva testing, hair samples, urine samples, food sensitivity testing, biofeedback, and we also do functional blood chemistry analysis. So once we do sort of all those tests or a portion of those tests, we may set you up with a program of, maybe it'll include chiropractic care, functional medicine, detoxing, nutrition, hormone rebalancing, not using hormone replacement therapy, but natural methods. Now we'll do things like dieting, fasting, grounding. So we have a grounding mat, one of the best on the market. We have massage therapy, Reiki, acupuncture, AcuDetox, psychological hypnosis. We have a midwife. We have a sauna, a salt room. We'll be getting hyperbaric chamber therapy. So there's just a lot of stuff. But again, how do we know what the person needs? It's all determined by the testing. So that in a nutshell becomes the services and products that we offer. The vision is to be able to offer an all-inclusive retreat experience in a destination to really reset your body. And that's what we've been doing now, is moving into retreats for individuals, health retreats, business retreats. I can help structure business retreats. And most importantly, our guys retreats, just getting together with other men and going out into the wilderness and connecting with creation. Like, that's really the biggest services that we offer. And more than anything, I mean, you can't really call this a service, but the cliche is that we're selling, a closer connection to your creator more than anything else. And if somebody wants that and they have a high value that they place on the connection and the closeness that they have with their creator, essentially they'll have no problem with seeing how what we do can lead them to that, right? They'll see that, oh yeah, the science that you're doing, I can see how it's getting the crap out of the way to connect. And they'll see that, wow, everything you're doing is very natural. Like, if I wanted to, I can just ground outside in the grass, but I don't have time for that, so I'll come here. I think that most of what we're going to offer people is very practical. It makes sense to them. And it's, like we said before, it's the options that they didn't know about that were always there, that they are deep down seeking. But again, if they're not being presented, if you're just being offered vanilla and not chocolate, you're just stuck with vanilla, even if you love chocolate. right? So this is giving people choices is very important, and that's ultimately what we want to be able to do, is provide, a variety of choices and opportunities for people. And sometimes we may recommend that someone does everything, and their circumstances do not allow for that. We'll still work with where they're at, right? We always say, come as you are. You don't have to do everything that we offer. You don't have to do half of it. You can just do one or two things that we offer here at the Wellness Center.
Okay. And you keep emphasizing men. What is your belief on the importance of men in society, or the specific role that men play, that men should play, that seems to have been lost?
Well, there's just a masculinity that has been lost in our culture. And clinically, what I've been seeing in men is 90% of men, when I test their blood work, they're low in testosterone. So men themselves are low in testosterone, I was observing. Also, in the conversations with women, I hear frustrations of how their men are not being men. And it's interesting what their concept and idea of what a man is and what it's not, right? And it doesn't really have anything to do with roles per se. Has a lot more to do with things like leadership, confidence, awareness, right? These are things that a lot of men are lacking. And it's not because they don't have the desire to be that way. They're just so busy in life, because the life that we live is taking away the three greatest desires that are in our heart. They know that those desires for adventure. So take a man and don't let him work outside. Tell him to stay in a 40-hour-a-week job and keep him inside, right? So what I've been seeing is the masculinity in our culture is starting to die out, and we're seeing it in the biochemistry. And so why I focus on men is because there's a strategic dissemination of men. They want to sanitize our population, essentially. And they've tried to take away this ability to reproduce with women, and women have all their other problems, and we have a whole other course for women. But men especially, they haven't created like a birth control for men. Right? They've encouraged vasectomies and sodomizations and all these abstinence, and they've created an environment where you can't even afford a kid, or you don't even want to have a kid mentally anymore, right? So this sense of procreation is what's being taken away from us as humans at the root core. And so as men, we have to be the leaders there, because the women have already been abused, and it's our job to protect the women, right? Women, they just want their beauty to be unveiled. They want to be fought for, and they want to be taken on adventures. Men need to fight for things. They need to rescue something beautiful, which would be the woman, or a piece of land, or a car, or principle, or something like that, right? And then we, of course, need to go on those adventures. So these are things that, with men, I feel like if we can focus on getting the man's awareness to be focused in that leadership position, if he can see that maybe he's not the leader, right? But that he needs to lead in a different way, right? I feel like all men are leaders. They're just not trained to turn that station on in their brains. And so I want men to see that there's different archetypes. And these archetypes are dictated by different mentalities, these brainwave states. And when we go through traumatic events in our life, and some of these things don't seem like traumatic, but an overbearing father, for example, that like mine was, who just wanted me to get straight A's all the time, right? That may have been traumatizing in some ways for me, but that created a certain mentality. My dad always said it to me, well, your success is because of the mentality I gave you. And I never really registered, but now I get, he was trying to get my brain just on one radio station. He's like, I just want you to listen to rap so that you could just feel that way all the time. But if you turn the smooth jazz station on, you're going to start falling asleep, right? So men need to know how to get into the alpha state, and how to get out of the alpha state, and how to get into the omega, get into the sigma state, get into the beta state, get into these other brainwave states. And if they can't get into that brainwave state, they need to look to another man who has that brainwave dominance and learn from him and ask him, how did they get into that state? How did they get into this mentality? Because there may be the alpha male that just wants to connect with his wife, but he's just alpha all the time. He just can't. But talking to another man who is like, this dude wants to be alpha all the time. He just cannot be alpha with his employees and just fire and make the decisions that he wants to. He's great at being creative, awesome entrepreneur, makes a lot of money, but he's not. He wants to be a little bit alpha sometimes, but he kind of doesn't like the alpha male, right? For some reason, whatever alpha in his life or did something to him. But you got to be alpha sometimes. You know, someone trying to throw a punch at you, you got to turn on alpha mode, right? Yeah, I get different fighters. There's alpha fighters and there's beta fighters. I get it, right? But as a general state of mind and principle, men need to just be aware that the stereo that they have has many different stations. That they don't have to listen to the same radio station, the same voice in their head from their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their bully, their pastor, their doctor, their friend, their family member, their foe. All they need to do is trust that silence that's inside of them, right? And once they see, like, I need to be here, like it's a late night, I need to go on this radio station and just meditate. So they turn their brain on a meditative state. And the next morning they're going to jiu-jitsu. They got to turn on the alpha, right? But they need to go in and out. And that's why it's important for the man to have his testosterone up, right? Because that's going to lead to his biochemistry. It's going to give him the strength of his weapon and his armor. So forget about man needing to become a sharp weapon and to be tested. That's one whole curriculum. The level 2 to our curriculum is taking the man's health and helping him to build a strong armor. A man, all he really needs in life to be successful, so to speak, is a strong weapon. You can go on the battlefield, just don't get hit, right? You need a weapon though, right? You can't show up to a gunfight with a knife, right? You can't show up on the battlefield with just fists, right? But if you have a knife and no armor and no shield, you're good to go. I would take a sword over just armor and having a bare knuckles on people, right? Just to give me a sword, I don't need anything else, right? But once you learn how to sharpen your sword, you're going to see, I need health. That's your armor, right? And I see so many men are just working at the grind. They're grinding away 40 hours a week. And at the end of their life, when they're being tested, they can't do anything with their sword or their weapon. And then the enemy just stabs them in the heart and they die of a heart attack. Number 1 cause of death for a man, right? So I don't want men to sacrifice their health at the grind, right? And so everybody wants to glorify the grind. And I want to de-glorify the grind. I want men and women, especially women, to not take on the grinding role. I want men to grind in times that they need to, and then sharpen their blade, and then fight some people a couple times, and then go back to the grind out all those little imperfections in the sword that you created from battle, and then go back to the sharpening phase. You know, sometimes you got to take the weapon and you create a little warp in it. You're like, damn, I got to go back to step 2, and I got to put this back in the forge. So there's these steps that you can create for a man so he can know, where am I at in life? Where am I? What is happening in this step? I'm just trapped in the grind. Damn, if I just keep grinding away till I'm 90, I'm not going to have anything in the tank. At least I'm not going to have any health. I'll have a lot of money, but no health. So this is very important because there's this old, you got God, just like umbrella. You got God, you got the man, you got the woman, you got the children. You got this like protection. And as much as I don't want to create these roles, we need to accept this understanding that man was made from the rough patch of dirt outside of the Garden of Eden. And so his essence, his body is made for certain things. Women, they're made from the garden, the dirt in the garden. That's why they like nice and soft things. I get sometimes there's a little bit of, some women are kind of made from some rougher dirt, on the corner of the garden a little bit, right? There's that exists. But for the most part, our roots are in this state, and we need to be these good, powerful leaders, because who's going to protect beauty, right? And man, he just wants to protect beauty. That's why every movie you watch it. There's a great adventure that they go on. There's some fight, right? Paul Walker in Fast and Furious, they're fighting some great force. That's their fight. There's an adventure, which I love, is all the cool cars along the way, right? And then there's the beauty, right? Eva Mendes or whoever it is, right? Like, dang. I kind of look at my life right now, and I hope you guys are looking at your life, and I hope our listeners are looking at their life. Like, they're having a deja vu, like, man, I remember chilling in heaven and looking down and watching Fast and Furious, like, I want the Fast and Furious life. Because when I look at my life right now, why do I love Fast and Furious so much? It's because I like those things, right? And the woman I have in my life, she embodies, why do I like redheads in all movies? Like, I'm like, why is there redheads always in movies? My wife's a redhead. Right? So I said to myself before I came to the earth, I want a redhead wife. I want her. And here I am. I got her. Now I remember that. Now I can go in and it's like, dude, I chose my wife before I even fucking came to this earth. I'm not going to divorce her. I'm not going to leave her. I chose her before I was here in a divine state of consciousness. I had all the knowledge in the universe and I chose her. I don't have all the knowledge in the universe now, so I don't have enough knowledge to unchoose her. Right? And every decision that you have going on right now, the fight that you're fighting, why do you just feel like fighting Goliath in life? Do it because you chose to do it. Your parents sometimes are going to naysay you. Your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, people close to you will naysay you. But in your heart, you got this fight that you got to fight. You got to go on with it. Now you need your brothers. And that's why I say the time for worship is over. The time for getting on the warship has come. right? I feel like the Creator didn't call us to just worship the creation. You don't want your son to just worship you all day. Hey, Daddy, how are you today? Welcome. Do you need anything? I want to worship you. You're the best daddy ever. I like that. I get it. I want praise for my kids too. But what I want my kids to do is to take what they've learned from what I've given them and create and to do something with it, right? What I feel like our Creator has called us to do is to stop praying. Stop praying to me. Pick up your freaking knives, get your sword, get your weapon, go to battle. Fight, my sons. Fight. Everybody's saying worship, worship. We're here for this life to fight. And if you read that book by John Eldridge, it'll tell you we're here to fight. You could take the guns out of your house. Your kids are going to shoot each other with chicken wings. Like they're going to find some violence is a part of children, a part of kids, is part of boys, right? Women don't understand that. My wife doesn't understand that. That's okay. I got to remind her. They're boys. You know, they're crazy. They're loud. They're going to fight each other. They're going to punch each other. They're boys, right? We got to let that happen. And that's what I feel like the masculinity from a young age to the older age, it requires us getting around other men. So we got an idea of what a well-rounded sword looks like, right? This whole idea, simply speaking, is iron sharpens iron. And that's what this whole men's group is all about. In order for me to become a better version of a man, of a doctor, of a father, I need to be around other men that have qualities that I don't have. And so that's where I developed this mastermind curriculum for men so that they can, of course, understand and remember their purposes, but also have a group of brothers to just call upon when they need help, or at least travel together, invest together, fight together, get on the mat together, work out together, shoot guns together, do things together on the worship, right? So the brotherhood, the mastermind of men is really considered the worship. And these are just men who understand that the time for praise and prayer and worship is over in the ancient form. And the new form is just to go to battle. You know, go to battle for your wife, your kids, for your car, for your business, for your land. Go to battle for the adventure, your peace, your time off. Go to battle for this great fight that you have in life, whatever purpose that you chose before you came here. You know, so I just want men to be reminded of it.
Perfect. That was a nice one to end on right there. And then, yeah, we're going to need to do this again for sure. We appreciate you being flexible and fitting us into the schedule. This was good stuff for sure.
Cool. No problem, man. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids are a little